Welcome to the Under the Hat podcast, the show where we talk about everything and anything that is top of mind in education. The goal is to provide meaningful conversation to what is currently happening in our classrooms. Stories, pains, moments of success. We want to hear it all. Welcome back, friends, to Under the Hat. And spoiler alert here. This is going to be a party. This is going to be hopefully like contained a little bit. But I'm joined by my good friend Manny Curiel, also known as Super Manny.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how that started. I just started telling people Super Manny, and I start signing my emails as Super Manny, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I can get away with it.
Sometimes that's all it takes. It's like that one time you're like, oh, okay, that's my brand now, right?
Yeah.
Very good, very good. And so, Manny, you and I, we just saw each other once again at Spring Q out in
Under the
Palm
Hat.
Springs. Oh, there we go. Oh, you know what? Yep, got to get mine on.
See, I saw the entry. I was like, oh, I'm not wearing my hat. Thank you for my delivery of hat.
Oh, it's good. Yeah. I want that kind of service in my own household.
Wow.
But yeah, we're not all that lucky, Manny. So anyone that's watching, feel free to drop anything in the chat, questions, anything you might have for me or for Manny. And so we're going to take the next 30 minutes or so and kind of talk shop, kind of have a good time. So Manny, like, in case anybody that's watching or listening, like, doesn't know who you are, or for some reason, because everyone knows Manny.
Oh my gosh,
like, everyone knows. But like, I like your context here, right? So like, you were a teacher at one point. You're now in a leadership role, I feel.
Well,
so tell us a little bit about it.
I came to this country not speaking English, right? And I did culinary because that's all I knew how to do. And so I learned my English like that. And I struggle as a student to this whole group situation. And I'm like, I don't understand. There's so many words that I don't know what it means. They speak so fast. So then I have a bad back. I couldn't really do culinary as long as I wanted to. So I transferred my credits to education. So I became a teacher. First grade, hey. I taught first, second, and third grade. And I can see my students struggling the same way I was struggling as a student. Me speaking fast because, we get excited, and then the kids are looking at you like, what's happening? What's going on? What's this? And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. My friend taught me, you need to go and look in Pinterest. And I did. I looked for fun classrooms because, that's my thing. Everything needs to be fun. And then I came across to flexible seating. And that is what started the whole thing. Flexible seating. Then I transferred to another school, and the principal told me, if you're going to be here, I don't need to go to your classroom. You are expected to tweet and tag the school and the district. So Twitter opened the world to, to the entire thing. It was like, what? Yeah. Then I started getting comfortable with technology. And then one year that I taught summer school, my neighbor, he had the kids doing something. I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? What are you doing with the computer? So I'm like, oh, we're doing, we're recording. I'm like, wait, what? With the kids? So
with I learned, kids?
Yeah, I'm like, how is this happening? So, and in first grade, because we always say, oh, they're too young. They can't do it. So that's what I was teaching. And that's what I saw he was doing. So that is how I started the whole thing. So I learned Edpuzzle, Flip, Seesaw, all the things, and got me into my journey on Edtech. Then I left the class because of Twitter. The district was like, who is this person tweeting? Then I became an Edtech coach, and I did it for a couple of years. Then I got to know people, and now I'm in Edpuzzle.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. No, that's great. And so, like, Manny, like, you and I kind of have a similar journey, right? Like, you came from the elementary world, I came from the high school world. But it was a lot of like being intrigued by some of the tools that we had available, right? And really running with that. And it's kind of interesting because it is a different thing, but it's also the same all in the same time, because we went from leading children, leading students, to now working for companies like Edpuzzle or Cami, right, where it's like our leadership looks different. We're leading adults. We're at conferences kind of having the fun. And so like what kind of similarities did you experience, like, or maybe some traits or characteristics or skills you built in the classroom that really prepared you to lead at a company like Edpuzzle?
I think it's like when you see it as a teacher, like when you're walking the hallways, you are the owner of your classroom. But when you are in a community, like it will be your class, your school. I mean, teachers feel very comfortable to be like, oh my gosh, you're doing amazing in the line. Like you go and you put your 2 cents on somebody else's student, right? So it's kind of like the community that's around you. So you were a TOSA, right?
No, I came straight from the classroom, so I didn't do anything like that.
Very
Yeah.
gradual. Like for me, it was like a teacher, and I was influencing who was in my school, and then I became,
Mm,
a Edtech coach or a TOSA, and then you influence the people in your district, and it was gradual, so it was easier, I guess. But it's basically the same scale, trying to support others in baby steps. I always remember people don't know how to speak English, like me, right? Like this is hard,
mhm.
even though it's easy for me, well now, but it wasn't in the beginning. Like I always picture myself trying to learn Adobe, like Premiere. I'm like, this is really hard. It's
Yep.
amazing, but I'm like, I don't know. And people were like, it's so easy, kind of like math. It's so easy. You go here, here, here. But for me, no, this is not easy. Or remembering numbers. My husband's really good at it. I am not. So we all know our skills.
Yeah.
So it's just like trying to put yourself in their shoes to say, like, this might not be easy for them, and honoring that they're willing to learn something from you because they see potential, and just explaining things over and again in different ways. um I know elementary because I speak with my hands. So it's like different modalities. That's where the UDL comes from, and I learned that from my
Mm,
friend Lynn. um it's like you want to show content in a variety of ways, like audio, pictures, emojis, like little things, because you don't know what people will resonate to. So it's always trying to think like, uh, I don't know, like throwing all the like a net, and then you'll be willing to catch, more things in a way.
yeah. No, absolutely. Um, and so I just appreciate the UDL component and the things you're just talking about, like that representation of content. Because you're talking about elementary. I'm like, Manny, I taught seniors, and I felt like there was still a need there, right? Like it's almost like, different things get locked in from different grade levels. Like Ken, you mentioned earlier, we're like, oh, first graders can't do technology, and I'm like, well, my own daughter, she's in first grade right now, and
Yeah,
she can rock behind a computer, right?
yeah,
But then you also look at like the SEL and the UDL, like, oh well, is that really for all grade levels? I'm like, yeah, like
yes,
some of the things that are really good for a first grader, good for everyone. What's really good
exactly. I think
for
it's
a
like
12th grader. Yeah.
people think like accommodations or like just for sped kids. I'm like, no, everybody will benefit from this. You're like, I'm squirrel or shiny kind of thing. So in English is not my first language, and when I'm reading something, and if you say, question, like you put an emoji of a question and a number one and a number two, hint hint, I know that in that text there's two questions. Defined clearly by emoji, like this is number one and this is number two, and I'm expected to answer both of them. I don't know if sometimes you're talking to friends and you ask two questions and the answer is yes. I'm like, uh I ask you two things, kind of thing. But when you put it with emojis, it's easier for the brain to recognize that you are expected to give answers to two things. So little things like that, or like adding audio with it, because again, you don't know who's
Mm.
a foreigner or who, accents in the US, and it's like sometimes it's harder to understand. So when I'm listening and then following along, it's just easier on the brain, because otherwise it's like you get tired.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny that you say that because Manny, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I now teach in adult ed, right? Like so it's teaching like a computer class to
Hmm.
a wide range of people, right? And of various age groups, right? So like some of these people are like really enrichment, like they're retired now. Like, it's wonderful. But like I've been doing a lot of graphic stuff with my checking for understanding.
Hmm.
Be like, hey, what is this? And then they have to pick like, oh, that's the waffle. But then I just did a screenshot of the waffle.
Yeah.
Or what is this circle? Because for some of them, if they've never been on a computer ever or for years, like they don't like what's that little circle? I'm like, oh, that's Chrome. That's Chrome. And so like if you're not living in it,
Yeah.
and like teaching with symbols is something that I found. And again, going back to like it is good for them, and they're adults, right? Like we all need that guidance and that visual representation of like what's trying to be communicated. So no,
I
love it.
bet I mean, when we do this whole like what we're doing, this whole group thing is you don't know what they're thinking or what they're going through or what emotional state they're in. So you just need to you need to give them options to be like, hey, okay, so here's words because people like to read, some people with visuals because people, and then here's the audio, and then you give all of them, and then they can pick because you don't know what's going to resonate to them or what's going to work best for them. And the thing is, now that I'm able to, see a whole bunch of teachers within the U.S. at different conferences, even outside the U.S., you really see that there is various needs, which it shouldn't need me to travel all over the world to be like, oh, people need different things. But if you're always in the same environment, like in the same school, you don't see it. It's when you're traveling and you're doing these things like, oh, what do you know? People need different things. And it's the same thing with students. They come in different levels of comfort, or for them to remember. Some of the students, it's very easy for them to remember, and some of them struggle. And we know this, but it's not on our forefront because we don't see it, we don't experience it.
Right.
So
Right.
it's that.
No, that is true, huh? Like I remember being a teacher and like you really learn the four walls of your classroom. You don't have a choice. Like
Yes.
you learn all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being on this side of it now, like Manny just being at Q and like how many teachers, administrators, instructional coaches do we talk with? And you see the similarities, you see some of the differences, but you also recognize like, ooh, the stuff that I used to do in the classroom, like other people need, right? And I kind of appreciate that like companies like ours get to allow us to have that microphone, that small microphone.
Yeah. And allow others to show what they know. Because like for me, whenever we have booth sessions, so you have booth sessions too, we get a peek in what they're doing. Because even for my community, I'm like, I had no idea you were this amazing. I mean, I know you're great, but when they were presenting, I'm like, wow. And I mean, you and I can go visit all the classrooms, right? Even though we know them personally, we don't know them like when they're working, when they're doing their magic, and we miss out on those things. So like giving them a stage for them to shine and show it. It's just great. And because we see all those little things, whenever we walk into a classroom or we're talking to someone, I'm like, I have an idea because I've seen this. And we're just lucky that we get to talk to all these people. But that doesn't make us amazing, is because we get all these ideas from teachers, but people are doing it. I'm just lucky that I get to collect all this and then look like I know what I'm doing.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't claim it.
No, I think that's a really good point too, is like in these types of EdTech roles, I've done more learning in the last year and a half than I probably have done in my whole life, just because like there's way more to absorb now, and then figure out how to organize it for it to make sense for me personally and for others. So certainly true. So we're coming down to the last 15 minutes, Manny. We always do like kind of the big question for the show, and you may have already have touched on it, right? So we can loop back to things. It's entirely up to you. But this whole premise of Under the Hat is like, with what you're seeing right now in education, for you, what is top of mind? Like, what is maybe something that we should be talking more about? Maybe something that keeps you up at night, right? Or maybe something like, you know what, we are being pretty successful at this one thing. Like what, and it doesn't have to be one, but what is under the hat for you right now?
I mean, obviously the easy answer will be like, oh, we're going to look into AI. We're going to look into like immersive technologies and the best news thing. But I'm like, we have a whole bunch of teachers that they don't even record themselves. I'm like, honey, don't be looking at what's next. Like, start looking at how you can best, serve your students. Like, I get it. People are shy. Like, you can record with your hover cam or your document camera in your hand. It's like sometimes I want to help my son, and I'm like, I don't know how, because math has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one voice, and it's not how I taught it, because it's not my classroom. We need to honor, the teacher and respect the way they do things. So I'm like, I want to do that, but I don't know how, you know. But I think is looking into the little things, like how do you best support emotionally your students? This is not new, but we don't do it enough. Like UDL, again, they just rebrand the same thing. Social emotional learning and universal design of learning is like they're all principles that we need to be doing. Yes, AI sounds amazing, gamification sounds amazing, but there's some people that are already doing the things that, like recording and meeting their kids where they need and all that. But I feel like we need to level the field first and then look at other amazing things that you could do. That's my take, which is not the answer that I guess we were like, let's look at gamification. This is amazing. We're AI. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm big into recording. It does not need to be a puzzle for sure. It just needs to be a way for kids to go back and watch what they've learned. Because I remember my students, it's like, I just can't remember. And like, when I went to Tokyo, like I needed to listen to the same thing, the same phrase over and over again. And I'm like, I don't get it. This is hard. And for some students it's hard because they're learning, their English is not their first language, and content that's new, and it's difficult for them. And sometimes teachers are they get so excited that I'm like, I mentioned this to a teacher. I was like, I would like for you to go and do escape room, because when you're doing escape room, you feel like clueless. And sometimes we need to remember how it is to feel like a student, that we don't know everything. I don't know if you've done escape room, but we're just like, I don't get it. This is hard. What's next?
Oh no, I have a good friend over at Cami, Sophie Young's. Like, I don't know if you've seen her on social, but she's all about the escape room, and like you, like hearing her talk about that, because she's done like real ones, like they're like she's like.
Yeah, you go to the actual room, not digital. Yeah. Like you go to
not
the
digital,
room.
But the actual one.
Yes,
yeah, and I was like, I've never done a real one like that.
An experience for sure.
I don't know. I'd be like, I'd be worried about my anxiety.
Well, but like I think is like when I taught English, like the vowels and how to read, because we get so comfortable in what we're doing that we already know it. We miss that connection with how do the student feels when they're struggling, because we already know it. And that is what you need to hold on to. It was like, they're struggling, they feel like this. Like, how I felt when I was doing, escape room. Clueless. I'm like, and there's no way you can figure it out. And sometimes you don't feel super bright, because that was how I felt. And then, I was like, how is it I can't figure this out? And then you ask for clues, which you ask your teacher kind of thing. And then you're like, okay, I got it. But that feeling of not knowing, it's something that we need to keep remembering, that our students feel that way. Because teachers feel the same way.
But when we were teaching, though, we're in our classrooms, it's easy for us to forget that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you're like, guys, come on, the cost of World War One, no, like we, like in my head, like I understand all the nuances and the complexities, of, how the war started, and the kids being like, wait, step back. But with video content, how much more accessible is it for them to step back?
Exactly, because you can slow down the video, watch it over
slow
and over.
Down, pause.
Yes.
And there's all this potential with video content. And Maddie, I'm pretty sure you remember, but like, me really leaning into the flipped classroom model, like it's just eye-opening how more your students succeed just by flipping for a short amount of time. Like I flipped for like 2 weeks, my first 2 weeks, and all the scores shot up, like just shot up. Like their understanding, their mastery, their comfort, their confidence with things just was like, exponentially higher.
Instead of whole group, because whole group needs to stop, you're really like differentiating that lesson based on data. And again, it could be any program that will give you data that you will put your lesson. Hopefully it will be a teacher recorded lesson, because it's your humor, your connection, your rigor, your vocabulary that your district and your school is expected from you. It takes less time than find a video that's already done. But then you sift your students like that, and then that lesson is different, because you kids that got it, they don't need to listen to you. They already got it, right? But you still need to push them, because just because they know it, that doesn't mean they're going to be sitting there doing nothing. You push them to do better, to do other things. And the kids that are in the red, they're like completely lost. They need you. And if you put them together in a group, it's most likely for them to be asking you questions and have this meaningful conversation than sitting in the cafeteria with a whole class, with the entire school and the principal saying something like, people don't ask questions. Well, like there's one or two people that ask questions, but mostly teachers don't ask questions because they don't feel comfortable of, being on the spot. Sure. Students is the same thing, but if you put them in a small scenario, in a small group, they feel like, okay, so these people have the same struggles than I have, and they're more able to open up, ask questions, and have this conversation back and forth. And if the teacher is busy, I'm like, oh, I remember I was, with this other person, and I'm like, hey, how do you do this? How did you figure it out? Because they need to discover what is the teacher is trying to tell them, instead of me giving you all the answers. But that doesn't happen if they don't start collaborating and talking.
Yeah.
So differentiation is like based out of data. It's not. I used to be the one that by reading levels, or by colors. I'm like, it changes. It really does. Like there's some students that are lost, but then for some reason, this one topic or concept, they got it. You better honor that, because they will do so much more for you if you validate their effort. Data. It's all in the data.
Yeah. And there's something powerful about like the student centeredness, like the student pace of things, right? Like, so if you have a group of students who are all working on your video all in the same time, they're taking like some students, like in what time, like throughout history before the last, like, I don't know, 30, 40 years, that a student could be like, nope, teachers slow down. Right. Or re-explain that. Right. And the fact that they get to take their own pathway with things is just phenomenal with video creation in mind. Right.
I mean, and the teachers work the same way, because obviously with that puzzle is you're able to put them through the certification. And when they have questions, then I'm there for them. And I said, you remember how you were feeling, like I'm here for you. And some people don't have questions because they got it, but some need more support because like, oh, I forgot, click here and here. It's just, and you replicate that for their, hopefully they're going to do that for their students. So it's for both adults and teachers. It's just sometimes when they're in their classroom, you forget that, how to feel like a student.
Yeah. No, love it. Super Manny, folks. This was really short. This is a short one. Manny's a busy person. So am I. And we appreciate. We really appreciate you taking the time, Manny. I know that let me put up your best way to contact Manny, unless
social media. Yep, that's right.
Boom, Manny Discotech. If you ever see Manny at a conference, be on the lookout for the jacket.
Like, the sequin. You
can't miss it.
Everybody's doing sequin jackets now.
That's great.
Just fine.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I have the Edpuzzle logo embroidered.
Yeah.
The thing, but it's
No, it's fun. It's great.
It's
all right, friends.
Well,
yep.
It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, no. If you ever want to do this again, Manny, give me a shout. You know where to find me. And for everyone else that's watching, listening, continue to give that support at underhatpod.com. I appreciate all the DMs, all the likes, just in general, all the support I've been given over the last few months or so. But again, trying to be really respectful of time. We'll see you all next time. I'm actually doing another episode tonight with Tim Belmont. This is my first doubleheader. Like, I'm like, what? Two in one day? Oh,
2 for
dang.
1.
2 for 1.
2 for 1.
Yeah, so I believe that's 5 p.m. Pacific time. So those that are up around the world during that time, or you can catch it afterwards. And kind of like similar topics too. So Manny and I just got done talking about video creation. Tonight we're talking about student podcasting, and that can, that really lends itself well with the day that I'm having. Awesome.
I wanted to get into it. I never really got into podcasting.
Never too late, Manny.
All right. Well, I don't have students no more, but I can get some teachers to do that.
Do it. It's basically what I'm doing here.
There you go. Exactly.
No, it's good. All right, friends. We're going to cut it off here. As always, keep your hats on, your minds open. We'll talk next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.